Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today we're going to talk about what do you do when one of your springs on your garage door snaps. Now, as you can see, one of these springs did break. You can see that this is the piece that's broken off right here, which then you have the safety cable through, and it keeps the spring from flying across the room and possibly damaging any kind of a car or whatever's in the way. So it's always a good idea to have that safety cable in. I'm going to say probably most of the houses have it, but if not, you want to make sure that you put that cable in. In this particular case, the spring broke, and it was pretty loud when it snaps because the spring itself is actually stretched out, as you can see, like this other spring over here. You see how that spring is all stretched out, so there's a lot of tension on the spring. When you have that much tension and then it lets go, it's pretty noisy and it can go flying across the room, so make sure you have that cable in there. The next thing I always hear from people is that, how do you know what spring you're supposed to use on the door? And there's a couple of ways you can tell. One, you can look in the spring itself, and I will bring you in a minute, I'll show you, but the outside part of this spring right here is green. So if it's green, that obviously you would put a green replacement spring on. If you look in here and there is no color whatsoever and you're not sure what spring to use, you want to actually lift the door up, put a regular scale that you would weigh yourself on, put the door down on top of the scale and see the weight of the door. Now at that point, when you want to measure the weight of the door, you need to pull the release for a garage door opener if you have one, because you don't want the door being held up by the garage door opener or being pushed down by the opener. You want just the weight of the door on the spring, and that'll tell you what size spring or what color spring you need to replace it with. All right, so let me bring you in there. I'm going to show you how you can tell what color this is. Then I'm going to show you the chart that tells you what the weight of the door is according to the color of the spring. And then I'll show you what what tools you're going to need to replace the spring, and then we're going to get this job done. I will recommend never ever replace one spring. If the spring breaks, change both springs on the one door, so that way you don't have any problem, because springs, as they wear, they do lose their strength and it may not pull the door down properly. So change them both, that way you won't have to worry about it again for quite some time. All right, so let me show you the tools, the color of the springs, and we're going to get started. You see the spring here? See how it has a green on the outside of the spring? And if you look here, you can also see that it's green. And that green tells you the replacement spring needs to be green as well. All right, now this is the chart that tells you if it's a green spring, the door weighs 120 pounds, and then depending on what color you have, that's the one you would put in there. Now, like I told you, if you don't have the color coding on the spring, which some of them do not have a color code on it, as I will show you on another spring here too, but you would take the door, sit it on top of the scale, and you can tell according to the pounds, how many pounds the door weighs, what color spring you need. All right, now let me show you this spring over here. Okay, now this is the spring for the other side, and as you can see, there is no color on there. You can't tell what color that spring is. So in this case, if we didn't know that this door was 120 pounds, then we would have to weigh that door to see what the weight is. Again, you release that handle and you stand it on top of a scale, and it tells you what the weight is. All right, now the next thing you're going to need is you're going to need some tools. You're going to need a step stool to possibly stand on, or a ladder. You're going to need a pair of pliers, one or the other, whatever you choose to use. We're going to need a pair of cutting pliers to cut the cable once we install it. These are to loosen up the 9/16 nuts and bolts that are in the wheels, possibly a screwdriver. And we're going to need something to hold the door in the up position once we release it. All right, and of course, we're going to need our replacement springs. And in this particular case, the replacement springs came with the cables that went through the middle of it to hold it just in case the spring was to break. All right, so enough talking. Let's get set up and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to raise our door, and we're going to lock the door in place so it doesn't move. So let's do that. Okay, we're going to take our locking pliers now, and we're going to lock the door in position. Okay, let's pull this cable back a little bit so it's not hanging like that. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect this cable, and we're going to take down the spring itself. So now we're going to take this cable here, and we're going to disconnect it from up on top where it's been threaded through here, just like this. And this has a loop in the end of it, so we need to open up that loop so we can remove the cable. All right, so now we untied it. We're going to take this and pull it through right here. Okay, then we'll take our spring and we're going to bring it down. And now we're going to disconnect the cable on the other end up here. Okay, this is where we grab our wrench. This particular case, it's 9/16. So we're just going to loosen it. Just like that. Okay. And then once we take this out, we'll just take off this cable. And we'll put our bolt back in there so we remember where the cable attached to. And we're going to pull this through here, just like that. And we'll take this down onto the ground. Okay, so now you can see that our spring has been disconnected. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up this one and this one right here. We'll grab our wrenches and we'll just take it apart. Okay, and now next thing we're going to do is take that bolt and unscrew it just like this. Take it out, and then we're going to take our spring off like this. Now remember, we're going to put it back together the same way that we took it apart, okay? Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take this piece off right here. We're going to take this cable and pull it out just like this. Like that. Take this out here as well. It's a little bit tight. Okay, so now we have this disconnected. We're going to put a little bushing back in here where it came out. And the reason that that bushing came out is because the cable, when it broke, it pushed it. It pushed it out. Okay, so now we take our bracket, take it, and hook it back through the new spring, okay? Just like this, the way it was. And now we're going to take this, bring it back over here, put this on here, like this, put the bolt through there, like that, and then we'll screw the nut back on, and then we'll tighten it up. So now that is now attached back on here. This cable will go back in its groove like this when we're ready to put it back up. And now we're going to take this spring and we're going to attach it back up to the top. Okay, so we're going to take the cable that we took, the new replacement cable, and we're going to thread it through, right through here, and it's coming right straight through. So it comes out the other end. Okay, just like that. Okay, now we're going to go up and we're going to attach this end up on top. Okay, we're going to take our cable, remember where it came through, right there. We're going to take our bolt, put it through here like that. Put this back through here where it belongs, and then we're going to screw our nut back on here as well. Okay, now let's take our spring. We're going to hook our spring right back on here. Okay, we just hook our spring back onto our eyelid like that, and now we'll reconnect the spring down on the side here. Okay, now that we have our spring attached, we're going to take our hook that previously came off right here. We're going to reattach it, just pull it and hook it back on. Make sure that your cables are not twisted around. All right, and the last thing you want to do is make sure that the cable is on the gear up here where it came off. All right, the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to grab our cable, our safety cable. We're going to pull it taut, and we're going to come back through here and put it back through where it previously was, like that. Now this cable is, like I told you, just in case that spring was to break. And we're going to take this and we're going to loop it back through here just to make sure that it doesn't really come off at all. And we're just going to loop it around a little bit, just like this. And now if you choose to, you can cut this cable shorter, but just make sure you have a good loop up on the top here. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to go to the other side. We're going to do the exact same thing that we did over here, and then once we have the other side done, we'll put the door down and we'll make sure it's okay. Okay, so now that we have both sides done, both left and right side are finished, the safety cables are on, next thing we're going to do is we're going to test it and make sure that it works properly. Now, if you disengaged the garage door opener, you would want to re-engage it at this point. I did not. I just locked the door in the up position with these vice grips. So let's take the vice grips off and let's give it a try and see how it works. All right, let's give it a try and see how it is. Okay, so as you can see, it works perfectly. Actually, oh, you know what? Let me just show you one problem. Sometimes you run into this problem and you'll need to correct it. When you have new springs on the door itself, I'm going to point it out to you. You see down on the bottom, over here? You see this little space you have down there? That's not good. What we need to do is we need to adjust the garage door opener to make the door close all the way down. So let's try it one more time and make sure that it works all right. Okay, so it opens up to a good height. You can see how it's even with the door itself. You see how this is even with the door itself. That's a good height. But when it closes, it doesn't close all the way properly. So let's check it one more time and see. Okay, you see that little gap right there? So we're going to need to adjust the garage door opener itself. And the way we're going to do that is, let's take a look up here. All garage door openers are a little bit different. Let me bring you up there with me so I can show you what's going on here. Let's take you off the stand. Okay. Now this particular garage door opener, now I'm not pushing one brand or another, this just happens to be the one that I have right here. Okay. Okay, this one is the open and closing force, how hard it comes down. So we're not going to touch that one. This is the one here that you can see. This is adjusting it as far, if you needed it to go up higher or to go down a little lower, you could adjust it right there with that one. But this one is the one that we're talking about right here. This one is the one that closes the door all the way down to the bottom. You can't put it down too far because if it comes down too far, it'll reverse and go back up. All right, so you can see that little gap. See the gap right there? Okay, so the way we're going to do it, we're just going to put our remote right up here for now. We want it to close down a little bit further, so this increases how far down it'll go. So let's turn it a half a turn, and we'll see how that works. Okay, let's close it down. And there you go. You can see it actually closes perfectly on the bottom. See? Nice and tight. All right, so as you can see, doing those springs is really not that hard. Just make sure you lock the door in the up position and you should be fine. Let me just go over a couple of details up here before you finish up this job and you make sure it's in perfect condition. A couple things you want to make sure. Let me bring in, I'm going to show you. Your cable, this cable is being held through that bracket away from here. You don't want that catching on anything over in here, so I always like to have this bracket facing up. Now some of these do not have this bracket. If that's the case, then you don't have to worry about it. Make sure that you loop that wire, that excess wire around all the way through here, or you can just cut it off, whatever you prefer. I like to loop it around there, so that's the way I did it. All right, so now this is nice and tight. This bolt here is tight. This here is through here where it belongs. Make sure that your cable goes through every part of the spring, because where it breaks is always right there, okay? And then we're gonna make sure we come over here, make sure that our eyelid is connected on there properly, okay? And of course, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go on that side and we're going to make sure the exact same thing. That little eyelet is facing to the top and out of the way. Our cable is all tied back out of the way over there, and on the wheel back there, we made sure that the cable is exactly on that wheel and not laying off sideways. All right, and the exact same thing on this one here. Our cable runs right through the wheel like that. That's it, this job is done. All right, so as you can see, changing the springs is fairly easy. Like I said in the beginning, don't change one spring, make sure you change both of them at the same time. You'll avoid a problem, and that way the door won't come down crooked or go up crooked or whatever. All right, but this job is done, and we're on to the next one. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.